Hey, this is Paul Monahan, and welcome to the Most Important Game podcast. My mission is to help you lead, play, and perform at your best. I help my clients to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more. On today's podcast, we visit with Anna Vaus. Anna is a young singer-songwriter from California, living in Nashville, Tennessee, and she's been in Nashville for 10 years now, making her way as a professional songwriter and performer. I spent some time with Anna 10 years ago when she was a young student at Belmont University in the songwriting program there. It's now 10 years later, and she's got some great reflections on what that journey has been like for her. And I think you'd be really interested to hear her take on the mental game of being in the music space. Here we go. Okay, so Anna Vaus is with us today. Anna, so great to see you. How you doing?
Great. Can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Fantastic. All right, coming to us from an undisclosed location somewhere in Nashville, Tennessee, I think.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, indeed. Studio.
Talk about this.
Yeah, we're in. I'm currently sitting in what is my apartment, but also the studio where I get to record all my music right now, and this for the past few years now. So it's pretty fun to get to do a podcast in it.
That's fantastic. At some point we'll have to get the full tour.
The full tour. It'll be a short tour.
We only have one viewer. I get it. Yeah. Well, it is the studio that I got a chance to spend some time in as I read a book while standing for 2 straight days.
Yes.
So
yeah.
it was a cool experience. So, all right. So good. So, love to dive into this whole thing as we've talked about the main theme here is we call this the Most Important Game podcast. And the idea is we're really exploring the ideas around what makes great performances, or what are great performances all about? What are the things that support great performances? What are the things that detract from it? And love to dive into that with you today. I want to start by really getting a sense for your story, like where you came from, how you got into music, how you got into the work you're doing today. And, let's start with this idea of, okay, all right, when did you know you wanted to be a singer-songwriter?
Yeah. So I feel like I've always known in some capacity. I can't really remember a time in my childhood where I wasn't writing songs or singing songs or forcing my parents to sit down and watch me perform something, and, forcing my brother to be part of the 2-man play that I had created for us. So I knew I always loved it. And I think because I had a family that was very creative, and my dad was a singer-songwriter and my mom was a video journalist, that just was like, oh, well, that's what you do if you sing and you write songs, is you go and you play them, and this is a real job. And so I feel like was very aware of that being something that I wanted to make my career. But yeah, I always loved it since I was a kid.
Okay, so you're around 2 people who were very much in creative spaces, very different, right? But
yes.
Very, very much creative, and very much, I'd call it they were each in like a performance domain, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about what you remember as a kid, and say how you have conversations with them today about what it was like for each of them being in those spaces.
Yeah, I grew up with a dad who was a singer-songwriter, and a mom who was on the news and was filming videos, editing packages for the news, and then also a live reporter on TV, and also writing too. So just kind of did all of the things. So I was constantly surrounded by not only creativity and watching my parents do that, but also the tools to be able to be creative. So I remember I think it was my 9th birthday, my parents got me a little digital video camera so that I could film and then upload it into iMovie and start editing videos. Or like I could just pick up my dad's guitar, or, they were constantly giving us creative outlets to be able to use. Like I say to friends, and I talk about this with my brother a lot, is that we really had the luxury of boredom. And when we were bored, we would go to those creative outlets. And so I think that just gave me like my context for what a normal job was that, you could go on tour and play shows for 3 weeks in a row and then come home and hang out for a little bit and then go record songs. And that was like, oh yeah, that's just what moms and dads do. But I think now that's really through my career, and as both my brother and I have gone on to do creative jobs like my parents, it's been really helpful to have them as a sounding board for what it actually requires to professionally do something like music or like video and film. So I've just, in times when it's been awesome, they've celebrated with me and they've been there to show up for the big moments, like opening for Willie Nelson or playing the Grand Ole Opry. And in moments when I've really struggled with this being my career, they've been there as a reminder of like, it's not always easy. And in fact, this is a really difficult job and your sacrifices look a lot different than someone that's in a 9-to-5 job going into an office every day. So I think overall, they really have just kind of normalized what this looks like as a career to me, and have always done that. Yeah.
That's interesting that you bring that up because I hadn't considered it that way. I know a lot of times when I spend time in what I call my creative space, right, where I'm trying to create something. It's a workbook for a corporate client. It's a new course for golf clients, whatever it might be. There's a part of me, because I came from the corporate world where, what people value in the corporate world is doing. You got a to-do list. It's 17 things long. And if you're not doing, man, you're falling behind or some version of that. How could you take 2 or 3 or 8 or 10 hours and sit and be creative? That's insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that seems like you get that. Like that, no, that is the thing for you. That is the work.
Yeah. And it's a really strange thing I've found, even just like the hours of even being just a writer for a publishing company where I am going in and writing a song in hopes that someone like Tim McGraw or Kelsey Ballerini would record it and put it on their album. The hours look really different. And I remember when I first started writing for a publishing company on Music Row and my friends from back home were starting to get jobs out of college, they would talk a lot about the requirement of hours and be like, yeah, I'm going into the office at 8:30 and I'm leaving at 6:30 and I'm exhausted. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm getting to the writer's room at 11 and I'm leaving at 2:30 and I'm exhausted. And for a while, I struggled with that feeling of not feeling like my work was really valid work because it felt fun and creative, and yet still leaving feeling like I output this huge amount of energy and work to do it. And it just has made me realize the differences, and that, creativity calls upon a really specific part of your brain. But it is certainly work.
Oh my goodness. It is. It is a lot of work and it's hard. And sometimes sometimes it feels like it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that in a few moments. But so I'm curious, did singing come first for you and then songwriting? I imagine, but I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. In a weird way, I feel like they came at the same time. I've always felt like I've had two parts of myself, where there is the part of me that as a kid was bold and truly would sit my parents down for hours and be like, and watch this next performance that I am creating on the spot. And I loved the performance side of that. But at the same time, that kid was the same kid that like loved writing in journals and just like would spend hours like listening to a song and copying the lyrics down, or just so much like writing happening. And I think probably naturally, because I saw my dad doing it in a very tangible way, I just combined what I knew of enjoying singing to like 2 words. So I have, so many journals from my childhood of just songs that were terrible, but for a 6-year-old, they're not supposed to be great. So they kind of strangely came hand in hand to me.
Well, yeah, like when you're 6, like aren't we learning cursive when we're 6 or some
Yeah.
version of that, or, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. What were some of the songs you remember from that time, or what were some of the sort of nuggets of creativity that you remember that were like, oh, that was just, I remember that was really great.
Yeah. Ones that I created or ones that I like kind of listened to and
Ones
that
that
I
you created. Yeah.
I remember I think the first song I wrote it was like Blue Skies Are Following Me was the title of it, or the hook, I guess. And then I remember I was journaling one day and I like this melody popped into my head that was like, every long lost dream led me to where you are. And it was like pouring out and I was like, this is a masterpiece. And then we sat down to watch American Idol like 2 or 3 weeks later, and someone was auditioning. They're like, I would like to sing God Bless the Broken Road by Rascal Flatts. And they go on to sing Every Long Lost Dream. And I was like, I didn't write that song. So there was like a lot of, you're just experimenting so much, I feel like, as a kid. But I definitely thought I wrote a #1 song at one point as a 7-year-old, and unfortunately did not.
Yeah, that's yeah, one of those moments, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's hard to learn.
It is hard to learn. It's hard to learn. How would you describe your journey up to this point? Talk me through. Okay, you get through those single digit years, and then it's time. You probably get a little more serious about your music, and
Yeah.
and then you get really serious about it.
Yeah. Early on in high school, I felt like I was being pulled in 3 different directions. So I knew I loved music, I loved singing and songwriting, and that I really looked up to Taylor Swift at that point of, this is a teenage girl that moved to Nashville to write songs, and it's become her whole career. That's my dream. At the same time, I also loved editing videos, and while in high school, I played lacrosse. So I felt like I was kind of at this 3-pronged fork in the road of, I can not go to college and I can do music. I can go to a college that has a great lacrosse program and, do business or something, just do anything, but my college is probably free. Or I can go and go to film school. And I kind of started to walk down each of those paths and learned pretty quickly with both film and with lacrosse that I was like, ooh, this is just a different animal than I want to deal with, or even go to. I just don't, the sacrifice it's probably going to require of me, I'm not really interested in. And then someone introduced me to Belmont University in Nashville, and took a trip there with my family and found out that they had a songwriting program, and that they had this really clear, it seemed, major that was like, if you want to write songs, commercial country songs on Music Row, we're a great place to do that. And pretty quickly narrowed that down and made that my #1 school. It's the only college I applied to, applied for the songwriting program, got in, and I just hit the ground running from there. I've always been a very goal-oriented person. So I've had my, like, by this age, I would like to do this. And when I got to Belmont, my #1 goal was, I want to sign a publishing deal by the time that I graduate. And so from then on, it was, I will do anything to get closer and closer to that goal. So I was writing songs like, probably things that I shouldn't have been doing as a 17-year-old, just not the safest in the world, where I would DM anyone and everyone on Instagram or Twitter, all these places who was on Music Row writing, or that was just doing what I wanted to be doing, and saying, hey, can I write a song with you? Or, hey, can I come to one of your writers' rounds and just like watch, where are you playing? So yeah, it feels like a long journey. I feel like if I had to describe the whole journey, I would say it's like been the scenic route, because there's been moments, it's just this winding road of like, I know this is what I want to do, and I see the top of the mountain, and I'm working towards getting to the mountain. And every once in a while, there's the moments of, signing a publishing deal and getting the win of that, and then playing the Opry is a win. Having a song recorded by Maddie and Tay and it going to be played on country radio. And there's been all these moments along the way that have been really cool, like mountaintop moments. But at the same time, there are miles and miles in between there of moments of questioning, moments of really learning, and 10 steps forward, 2 steps back, kind of constantly. But Belmont was really the way that I got to Nashville and started to meet a community of people and write songs with those people that led to writing songs as an artist and writing songs as a songwriter for other people.
Oh, fantastic. And yeah, the Grand Ole Opry moment was a big one for you, right? As you say, a mountaintop moment among others.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Talk through that experience. What do people not understand about how cool that is for an artist to perform at the Grand Ole Opry for the first time?
I think the experience, one, goes by so fast, and you get 3 songs the first time that you play at the Opry. You have 3 songs. And I think what I was surprised about in going through that process of getting to do my debut was that there are, in my opinion, very few things that have like a certain like that everyone in an industry like has reverence for still. And there is just such a respect that not only like the community of country music has, but that all of the people in country music have for this circle, this wooden circle on a stage. And to be part of something like that was just so cool. And I think what also, like, it's a huge stage. Like, there's something about like the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville that for some reason makes it feel like this little homey place. It's massive. So you step out onto the stage and you're in a room full of country music fans. And it, to me, felt like just this introduction to country music where I'm like, I'm just happy to be here and I hope you want me to keep coming back. Yeah. So it was crazy. I think it feels like it didn't actually happen in a lot of ways, even though there's a poster hanging right there, but it's wild.
Yeah, it is an amazing place. It's, there's no question about it. And you can definitely feel, like you said, the spirit that lives inside of that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was surprising too, when we went to see you on your performance. The Grand Ole Opry, I thought it was a place, but it's not a place. It's actually a radio show.
Yes.
Technically, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like Wednesdays through Saturdays or Thursdays. It's only like a few nights a week.
Yeah.
And right?
Yeah.
And so it's had different locations over the years, but that was really an interesting wrinkle as far as I was concerned. Like the Grand Ole Opry, it's more an idea than a place.
Yes, absolutely.
But the idea has endured for so long, since what, the 1920s or 30s?
Yeah,
or
I think the
something?
20s. It started in downtown Nashville, and now it's a little bit outside. But yeah, the first time that I played, my granddad called and was like, "I listened on the radio." I'm like, "That's crazy that that's how you're tuning into this right now." But yeah, it's just the way. It's
probably the proper way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Through a vintage
I
radio.
love that they have the on air.
Yes.
It's like a giant. And for those that haven't been there, like it's a giant studio in essence. It's a giant radio studio. So, right. So when the show starts, the on air, box turns on and there you go.
Yeah. And they're asking people to cheer when you come back from commercial breaks and stuff like that. It really is a show. And you sit there as the announcer talks through the commercials, and it's really amazing. It's an operation.
No doubt. What would you want people to know and understand about the challenges of being in a creative space like singing and performing and songwriting that can be really, really difficult at times?
The mental game, I think, is incredibly challenging. I feel like everyone talks about how you get told no 1,000 times before you get one yes. And I think I heard that going and in preparing to move to Nashville and enter the industry. I was like, well, I can handle a no. But I think what I wasn't prepared for was the no's that you don't get, and where it's just silence, or like where you're just kind of in like this open water, versus there's not really like a clear path that you can walk down, because there's a million different paths that you can walk down. And so mentally, I think that's really challenging for a lot of people, because it's a make it yourself and a build it yourself career. I think like a lot of like anyone who's starting a business is that way. But yeah, there's so much that's going on in your head. And I think too, music, at least for me, is so personal, and my business and my brand is who I am as a person. And so separating that when you're in a performance environment can be really, really difficult, because if something doesn't go well, it's like, well, I misrepresented my brand, and that's me at the end of the day. So that can be really challenging. And I talk to a lot of friends who are artists and who deal with that in so many different ways. It's tricky.
All the customer complaints come to you, you mean?
They do, yeah. For some reason, they've let me know.
Well, and that's a great point, because today, you as an artist, you live in a social media world where anybody in the world at any time can tell you how much they like you and tell you how much they don't.
Yeah.
So what's that been like? As a mental game, you know.
Yeah, it's really strange. I think that it's been really important to me to set boundaries and to reality check myself in the good ways and the bad ways. That like when there's 100 people commenting saying, "Oh my gosh, you're so awesome," or like, "I love your voice," or all that stuff, that can just as easily be 100 people saying, "Your outfit is terrible. I don't like your personality, drives me nuts," like that kind of thing. And so just remembering and refocusing on like the real life. Like I often feel like I have to tell myself, like, go outside and touch some grass, because that's like the real life. Like this thing on my phone those are real people, but they don't really know me, and I don't sit across the table from them and have dinner, or like they haven't met my mom, and they know parts of my life, but if they don't know everything, then they don't get to speak to every part of my heart. So it's a really weird thing, and it's hard to set boundaries with that, because I think I feel pressured to be constantly part of the conversation online. But in order to take care of yourself, you can't do that. No one is in an okay place if they're always part of the conversation online. Oof.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's fascinating. Our last episode that we released, one of the comments in the shorts was something like, "Hey dude, hey dude on the top." So it was in the shorts, right? So Paul's on the top and Nathan Ray is on the bottom, and
yeah,
Nathan was a tremendous guest, and this is I don't know how many 3-time world champion, karate guy, just an amazing guy.
That's
right?
amazing.
So, and the short is, Nathan saying something interesting and fascinating. And I must have been looking like, like, wow, like this. And so the comment is about, "Hey dude, are you on drugs, dude?"
Oh my gosh.
It was essentially,
yeah.
That was the comment. That's the only comment on the short. I was trying to pull it up here if I could see it, but it had language in it that I didn't understand. I literally had to look up. It was like, urban I had to go to the Urban Dictionary to figure out the. So, but it's funny because it's like, yeah, dude, I'm out there and people can say whatever they want.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been a really interesting thing for me, because at one point, I think I said to my dad when I had posted some video, and truly like the comments were full of people just like ripping me apart, which is wild. But I said to my dad, I was like, I just don't understand. It's not like I put out like a suggestion box with like, a pen and say, let me know here. And he was like, well, you kind of do when you post on social media. Like you are asking people, you want people to comment. And that's where like you kind of give the power and the control of what happens with your social media post or your art. Like you give it away once you release something into the world. And that's kind of a part of the job too that you just sign up for is that weird, person behind a screen.
Yeah, that's a great point. We do give that up, and you in a much bigger way than me. The dozens of people who see my work is
But in the people, even like the people that you interact with every day, like thankfully people in person are kind and like appreciate what you do. But in the same way, it's like with
not
anything,
all of them.
not all of them. But like you just relinquish the control of like, I have done and created this to the best of my ability. And someone can either love it or they don't love it. And I just have to kind of be at the mercy of that. And I don't know if it's business or it's art or both, but it's a requirement of the job in a weird way.
I think that's a great point. And I think there's a couple of ways to handle it. I'm thinking about the work of Kelly Leonard at Second City in Chicago. He wrote a book called Yes And. His idea is that when, there's so much to learn about the performance framework that is part of improvisational comedy.
Yes.
And that whole idea that's like, accept everything that comes my way and say yes first. And so if somebody's like, dude, are you on drugs? It certainly seems like it.
Yes. And
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
My precious little ego wants to say, that guy was so mean.
Me too. Me too. All the time. It wants to be like, and that, it's
so
really
offended.
easy. Yeah. Like, how dare they? Don't they know?
That hurt me.
Yeah.
That just was too close.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that is part of the mental game of this whole thing is when you put yourself out there. I heard something the other day, and it was in a golf context. Well, that's a surprise. It's in a golf context, and it was something like, hey, if you want to be really, really good, the very first thing you must do is promise yourself or commit to being willing to be embarrassed a lot.
Yes.
Because you're going to go out there and do it badly a lot.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you gotta figure out how to be okay enough with that.
Yeah. That's a really big thing I think that I can struggle with. I feel like I can tend to be a perfectionist when it comes to things. And so the idea of not presenting as I have everything together can be really scary. And that's, I think, especially in the creation process of music, like Kevin and I have been working on this music, and we would have, when we were in the flow of things, it like feels so good. And then we get to a point where we're like, oh, well, what should that part be? And my brain like fast forwards, 2 years from now when people can stream a record or a song. And I'm like, but what will they think if this like guitar part I'm playing is not exactly perfect and they hear the squeak or that, and that it's just panic. Because and that's not even embarrassing. That's what's crazy is like these things we tell ourselves are embarrassing, I think to other people a lot of the time are like, it's really cool to try. And something that's really resonated with me, I was talking to my mom a few months ago just about how difficult this job can be sometimes. And I was really in a place of feeling like questioning it and feeling that like embarrassment of like, oh, it's so if I make this record and I put it out and 10 people stream it and it does nothing, like that's so embarrassing to me. I feel like my high school self showing up to a party in like full makeup and a dress, and I've curled my hair, and the guy that I had a crush on is like with another girl. And it just is this like weird,
that's
like
the nightmare.
Yeah, the nightmare. And my mom said to me that she had been talking to my aunt, and my aunt said, Anna and Jake are so brave for putting themselves out there with their art. That's a really brave thing to do, to be so vulnerable with art. And I had never thought of it that way because it just feels like something that we do every day. But that really, really has empowered me in the moments where I feel that embarrassment of like, it's not embarrassing. It's really brave to try and to say, hey, this is something I care a lot about and that I tried really, really hard and put a lot of work into. That's just, I'm going to die on that hill of that I love this and I'm proud of what I've made. And if you don't like it, that's okay. And if I fail at it, that's okay too, because we can get up and try again.
Oh yeah. That is very true. It's something we can step into again and again and again. And this idea of, what is it that we really fear, right? This, I think is it, not Amy Williamson. Now I'm forgetting the author, but the quote that's like, hey, it's not, the thing we fear the most is our light. Right?
Yes.
What would happen if I was this amazing thing for people? Like that's the thing we fear the most.
Yeah.
And so, completely botched that quote. We should pull that up at some point. But yeah, I think the courage to continue to put yourself out there. There's a big mental game there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're out there for all to see. I keep saying we as if I'm on the stage, but not quite, but baby stages. So.
No, but it's still, it's totally the same. And I think that's like really wild too, is that all the stakes always feel kind of equal, whether it's, like I've gotten to play a lot of backyard shows, and the stakes of playing those for some reason felt the exact same as the Opry to me, where it's like, it's just when other people are present, the stakes have been raised. Yeah.
Oh, no doubt. And I'm wondering, like in a backyard, if there's 50 people, if there's 25 people,
yeah,
it's like, you're really intimate with them. If there's 1,000 people, it's a different feel almost, right?
Yes.
I don't have to be as close.
Absolutely.
One thing I'm thinking of too, going back to what you were saying about willing to be vulnerable inside something that's less than perfect.
Yeah.
Is I know that when we saw you play at Kent in the spring, something happened. It was either a sound thing or a strap or it was something that wasn't perfect, and you just played it so perfectly. I think the way you step into that stuff as an artist today, it seems to me like you've got that figured out. And I don't know if you remember that moment, but it was
I do. My earring got caught on my jacket. I think that's what
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Had long, it's like, again, it's like I tried to show up as this cool, like Mr. Long, shimmery earrings, and then it gets caught to my leather jacket. And I'm like, well, I can't play guitar. Yeah, I think that's been, I'm 27, I'm about to be 28, so I still feel like a young whippersnapper in a lot of ways. But I think something that I've really loved about going through my 20s is the shedding of, I guess it's like the power of indifference to me. Of if I was 21 and I was playing that show, I probably would have truly beat myself up about that for days afterwards. And like, oh, how would Taylor Swift have done it to make it so that you didn't even notice that was happening? All that. And I think as I've gotten older and played more shows and just become more comfortable in my own skin, I've found that just being real and being a human is really important to me if I'm going to step on a stage, because I know what it felt like to be 13 and see the perfect example of a person and how that felt to me, and the comparison game of like, gosh, I'm 13, or even I'm 21 and I feel like this girl has perfect skin and just like, beautiful bleach blonde hair, all that stuff. And I feel like in order to be fully myself, or not even fully myself, I feel like I have to fit that in order to feel like I fit in. And so the more that I have let my guard down and connected with people on just a human level in a performance setting, the more I feel like I'm doing what my purpose is through my songs. So that's just been a lot more fulfilling to me than trying to be perfect.
Yeah, this idea of the judgment of others, I think, can be so profound. I'm having this conversation in a couple of different performance domains right now with some clients, and like, it is such a powerful thing. I'm working with somebody right now who is so talented in so many ways, and yet they struggle to make sense of when they think other people are judging them a certain way.
Yeah.
People close to them, people not so close to them. And it completely changes their capacity to perform.
Yeah. It's I feel like such a hurdle and so hard to get out of. I feel like Kevin and I have had so many conversations of when I get really worked up or upset about something exactly like that. Of, well, what are people going to think if I try and put out another record or I try and do this kind of thing? And he often reminds me of like, what narratives are true and reality right now? And what are ones that you're maybe creating in your head that aren't setting you up to do your best or to be your best? And, 99% of them don't exist and never actually happen. But they stop like 100% of my progress.
Yeah. That guy, Kevin, he's right a lot.
He is, I know.
Golly.
Sheesh.
I experienced the same thing with that guy.
How
he's
dare
right.
he? Yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. Well, speaking of you at your best, I brought a little picture to share here.
Ooh.
Let me see if I can go to the iPad. Oh, there we go. We have to talk about this. For those of you listening at home, just put up a picture of Anna performing in April of this year, live on it was the CMT broadcast?
CMT Awards, yep.
The CMT Awards. And Anna, who's that guy that you're with there?
That would be Mr. Keith Urban.
Keith Urban.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Can I just say, by the way, that the stroke of genius in that image absolutely has to be the guitar strap.
Crazy.
What is that?
I wish I could take credit for that. That was just sheer luck that I had a local San Diegan had reached out after I performed on the KUSI, which is our local news station, and was like, hey, I make custom guitar straps. Would you want one? I could put your name on it. And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. And then 2 years later, that is the only guitar strap I have. And it was the perfect opportunity to have been playing with it. So, yeah.
And there we have Anna's guitar strap and George Jones. George Jones is kind of looking at your guitar strap. Don't you think?
Like, where did you get that?
Anna. Nice job there, Anna. That's well played.
Let's hope.
So let's talk about for a moment. Let's talk about that moment at the CMT Awards, because I'm really curious about this idea of, all right, you, when you're at your best in a performance domain, like what was that like, and what were some of the things that came up for you as you got ready to perform, as you were performing, because it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it was a really big deal. It was the first time I had performed on, live national television like that before, and in an arena also, and also with Keith Urban. So I went into it. I think I was really thankful because the mentality I was able to go into it with was like, first of all, we're just going to acknowledge I am terrified. This is a totally new experience for me. But at the same time, I was so excited because it was like, this is I've never done anything like this before. I am truly just at the whim of whatever this is about to be. And all I can do is have my parts practiced and know that like the most important thing here is just soaking in this experience and enjoying it, because it's going to go by so fast, and who knows whenever I'll get to do that again. So I was like pretty much coasting through that the whole way. And thankfully I have written with Jerry Flowers, who plays bass for Keith, and have written with Nathan Barlow, who plays keys or plays guitar for him as well. So I had some familiar like friends in the group, so I felt a little bit of comfort in that. I will say, like, we did a dress rehearsal the morning of the show, and we all had in-ears, headphones in. And we had run through the song the day before in the arena, everything smooth sailing. I knew my part, knew they had told us you're going to walk up at the end, and you and Maggie Baugh, who's an amazing musician, are going to stand and play next to Keith. First run through was great. Day of the show, we go through the run through again, and my headphones don't work. And so I was relying on just this quiet speakers playing through the arena to be able to know where we were in the song and when I was going to have to walk towards Keith. And so I just at that point was like, if something goes terribly wrong, I know that I can do it if my headphones are out, and I've done it, and so let's just hope it works. Nice. And so I think there was just this, like, at this point, like, again, like, indifference, I feel like has a negative connotation to it, but like an indifference of like, I'm here, I get to do it. The worst thing that happens is I'm a little late to this point, but I'm a professional and I've done this enough to like trust myself in this and kind of let it be like a free fall. Like, let's just go and see what happens. And so I think there was like a playful indifference to it where the stakes didn't feel that high, even though it was national television. It's all these things, and all of the people that I work with and that I want to work with are watching right now. It was just like, let's just have fun. And yeah, it was a strangely like good mindset in a setting where I think previously, like, I have not felt that.
Fantastic. I love this word indifference.
Yeah. It's fun.
I don't know if you know this, but in the golf world, in the Mo Norman golf space, Mo Norman himself used to say, "I love to play the game of golf with an alert attitude of indifference."
Nice. Yeah.
And the term indifference, in some ways, has kind of a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But in a performance setting, I think it is exactly the kind of thing that can make such a huge difference.
Absolutely.
When you're experiencing indifference, what is that like?
I think first there's like two layers of it. One, there's just peace physically and mentally. My breath is at a normal rate, and I feel like this physical piece of, I'm not like, oh gosh, and when I play the guitar, am I going to land it? It's just like, yeah, I probably will. I've played this song now 100 times. Odds are I'm going to play it at the right spot. And then I think after peace, it comes the playfulness of, all right, well, if I know that I can do it, then what's the extra 10%, or what's the one thing that I would do differently, knowing that everything is going to work out okay, that would make this more fun to me, or that would pull me out of my comfort zone and be a little different. And if it works, awesome. And if it doesn't, I'm probably already checking all the boxes of things that make it a good performance to me.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. And so the word fun now comes up for me.
Yeah.
Quick little story. You might have heard this. I know how much you follow golf. It's a big passion of yours.
It is. Yep. I get out there every day.
Oh, yeah. So Scotty Scheffler wins the gold medal in Paris for the USA. And a day or so after he wins the gold medal, there's a posting on X or Twitter, and it shows 4 images, 4 different golfers, and they're each holding a board where they're answering 3 questions. It's like, who are you? Where are you from? And then what's your goal in the Olympics? and it was like Rory McIlroy and Xander Schauffele, the big names in golf, right?
Yeah.
And the three of them are all like, I'm Rory McIlroy, and my goal is to win gold. And they're all like, win gold, win gold, win gold, except for Scotty Scheffler.
Wow.
His goal, have fun.
That's awesome. How
What?
cool. That's crazy.
Right?
Yeah. Man. Well, I think a lot about like in our early conversations, even when I was still at Belmont and talking about that like outcome versus the mastery and that like, yeah, just the mindset shift of my competition is not the other people. It's myself. Like, how can I become better at this? I think it's just a more sustainable and enjoyable way to create or perform or to play golf or whatever it is that like I don't want to get in a fight with myself after the show about all the things that I messed up on and all that stuff. Like, I want to love this. And that's the reason that I started doing this in the first place, is because it was fun. And I loved like sitting down and trying to write a song or come up with how to spin a certain title so that it landed the right way. Like, that's fun to me. And there are difficult parts of it. But if the purpose of it is not to enjoy it, then I should probably pick a different job, because there's a lot better jobs out there that would require a lot less of me and my heart and like my mental health. So that is so cool. I love that. I feel like I should print out that picture and hang it next to my desk.
No question. That is a big one. I'm imagining like you're channeling your inner 8-year-old or your inner 12-year-old, and just how much fun were you having then, right?
Totally. Yeah.
I feel like we have to do a sponsor timeout here. So this moment sponsored by the most important game, Play Better, Struggle Less, Enjoy More, by Paul Monahan. Recorded in the studio in Nashville that Anna happens to be sitting in right now. This is
the one.
My master producer, Kevin Monahan, right? Chapter 2, Playfulness. And the story is about this little guy and actually your friend who did the illustrations for me, right?
Yep.
The story about this little guy on the putting green as I'm having a grinding competitive scenario with this other player as part of this instruction school I was at. And this little guy over there just having a blast and like rolling in all these putts he should never have been rolling in. And then, so I finished that match and I have to play another guy because I win the match. And I have to play another putting match with this other guy. Well, this other guy had been hanging out watching this little 7-year-old. And he absolutely smokes me, almost shuts me out. It's not even close. I said, what the heck? His name's Gary. I'm like, Gary, what just happened? That was unbelievable. He goes, I just was watching that kid over there. He was so playful that I decided maybe I'll just be playful.
That is awesome.
How amazing is that?
That's right? Incredible. What a tangible, visual of that.
Gosh. And it's like, and yet part of my brain still doesn't want to accept that, it can't be just playful.
Yeah.
Or, some version of that.
Yeah. I feel like for me, that's my pride of and this is serious work that we're doing. Like, we are saving lives.
Yes.
And it's like, yeah, but also you're singing a song about fill in the blank thing. There's the artist part of me that wants to be taken really seriously at times too. And that sometimes those things don't go hand in hand.
No doubt. I will say that I do remember some of our early conversations when you and Kevin and all your pals were at Belmont. And
yeah.
You were very interested. I would say that not all of the folks not all of your peers were interested, which I totally get.
Yeah.
But you were really interested in that. What is it that sort of drew you to some of that conversation? And then what are some of the things that you remember? concept-wise coming out of that?
Yeah. I think what interested me in it, I don't know if it's because songwriting requires like a lot of introspection, but I think there is so much of that. Like I'm a very emotional person and a very sensitive person, I would say. And so it was really interesting to me because I think pairing that with the part of me that really loves to achieve is like those things don't always have like hang out together in a great way. Because so much I put so much pressure on succeeding. And in high school, it was winning the lacrosse game or getting the over 4.0 so that I could get into this school or whatever. And it was really interesting to me that I felt like you were coming in and presenting this idea that it doesn't have to be that way. And it probably shouldn't be that way if you really want to be the best you can be at whatever it is that you want to choose to do. Yeah. And so I remember like perspective being something that we talked about and really sticking with me. And I've probably said this to you before. And it's a small thing, but like, just understanding that everyone is coming from a different place and that you can't like control that. You can only just accept it and allow it to be. And so I think the example you had used at the time was like if someone cuts in front of you in traffic and then like, they're just like driving you nuts on the road or whatever.
Sure.
And you can either be like, are you kidding me? This is and all that stuff. But like, who knows what they're going through? And so I think in the same way, in a performance setting for me, I think about that a lot of when we're playing a show and there's a guy in the third row who's like talking to his friends, drinking a beer and all that stuff. And I can either tell myself, it's me and I'm not performing well enough and I'm not winning this person over. And if I don't win this person over by the end of the show, like I've failed, versus like, I don't need to win that person over. And I don't need to I just need to, I'm going on a tangent here, but like, I don't know where he's coming from in sitting down to this show. And I don't know if like he hasn't seen his friends in 4 weeks and just like wants to talk with them. And I think removing the ego from it a little bit. Yeah.
100%. It's like nothing has meaning until we give meaning to it.
Yes.
So we have lots of options.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
And so many of those that are reflexive for us are built in because of the stories we build over time about how people should behave or how people should drive or how my golf game should unfold in front of me or how this audience should react. It's all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. The expectations. I feel like that's something, just noting going into a performance, what expectations I have, whether I've chosen to put them on myself or not. And just kind of removing those from the situation and looking at it with maybe a more objective perspective than just like, this is make or break. Like, I don't think anyone wins in that situation when you're walking into something going, if I don't do this well, it's over for me. Like, you're not going to do it well, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. You just probably signed the ticket there.
For sure.
I heard the other day, somebody said, try this for one day. Set the intention early in the day to see love in everything that happens to you.
Oh, wow.
Throughout the day.
That's
see
awesome.
love. I'm like, wow, I hadn't thought about that before. It's
Yeah.
a really cool thing.
I'm going to have to try that. I love that.
Yeah. And it's just another example of how we are sort of reflexive way in which we see experiences. It's something that's changeable. It's dynamic. Mm-hmm. And and if we give a little intention to it, we can create amazing experiences. But if we just sort of let it happen without much consciousness, who knows?
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be that good.
No, it's scary.
It is scary. It is scary. I'm curious about Well, I'd say it this way. What would you say would be the most amazing performance experience you've had so far? And then maybe what made that such? And then what would be an experience that you'd want to do over? You'd want a chance to take another swing at?
Yeah. Most amazing, I would say, I got to open for Willie Nelson in Bakersfield in 2020, Bakersfield in San Diego.
Okay.
And Kevin and I, it was like the first week of January that these shows were. So we were coming off of Christmas where there's just so much downtime that we both had so much time to set aside to rehearse. And we spent so much time practicing. And just in all the different ways where it was like with a metronome, without a metronome, with mics, without mics, all of the things. And so when we walked onto that stage, I felt so prepared that I didn't even have to think about, can I hit this note? What do I need to say in between these moments? Or when does Kevin come in? It was just all the questions were answered of the things that we could control. And from there, it was in my head, like, well, we've done our part. And now all we can do is perform for the audience that shows up. And it was just a moment I still, to this day, think about like how in the zone I felt. Because it really didn't matter how people reacted or if Willie said he liked it after the show. It was just like, we did that. Like we practiced so that we could perform in an awesome way and we're going to nail it and just have fun. Like that's our only like goal at this point. So yeah, that was one I think about a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And so preparation, that's really interesting because in a bunch of different domains that I talk about the mental game, people want to talk about the mental game sort of as if it's in a silo. And I'm like, no, it works like this with your skill set. Like, so the skill set is here. You've got to have that.
Yep.
And then you bring this together and you have this, I just did that. But then you have this symbiotic.
Right.
Yeah. Can we cut that one, Kevin? But you have this symbiotic relationship instead of, skill set here, mental game here. No. They support each other.
Yes.
And so preparation, gosh, that's so important. That's really
huge.
cool.
Kim Franca, who you had on, which was an awesome episode. I really enjoyed listening to it. I work with her and we talk about that a lot. And I think she mentioned it where she has with singing. I mean, you have the breath seems like such a second nature thing that you would never think about where you're breathing. It's just, I just breathe when I feel like I need to breathe. And she has you mark every breath in a lyric and memorize it. And it's funny because when I was first doing it, I really was like, well, but I know where I'm going to breathe in the song. And as I paid attention, I was like, I'm breathing in different places between lyrics here. And I was so concerned about being able to look and move comfortably on stage. And she would say to me, I promise you, if you memorize where your breaths are, your body will naturally start to like move and like just like groove in a way that you don't have to think about. And sure enough, like as I memorized where these breaths were, my brain went away from focusing on how I needed to move on the beat and just feeling and being in that like autopilot flow zone. And yeah, it's funny what preparation does for you in that setting. It's just like you would think it would make you more tuned into what you're doing, but it actually allows you to be less tuned in and feel more than think.
There's a freedom in that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Great lesson. Something you'd want to have a do-over with a performance that you'd love to get back and do a different get a different take on.
I played an EP release show in Nashville a few years ago, and I was so scared because my friends were going to be there. People from record labels were going to be there. My new publishing team was going to be there. So the stakes felt really high to me. And I don't think I've ever been so aware of like my body and my like every part of the process was like I was present in a terrible way, and just like every note was a final exam, and every note that I missed or that I was pitchy on, I was like, oh, there goes the record deal. And then like, you sing a few that are good and oh, okay, well there goes the publishing deal, that all that stuff. So I was just I was the proctor of the exam and the taker of the exam at the same time. And you should never be both of those things at once.
So, and therein lies the gift of the experience, right? And what it teaches us. Yeah. That's awesome. As we kind of start to wrap up here, I'd love to hear from your perspective. What's the best advice that you ever got?
That's a really good question. I would say life advice that I've really tried to like apply to performance. Oh gosh, it's so hard because there's a lot. Something that my Grammy, my mom's mom, always said in her life was, her motto was glad to be. And her license plate said glad to be. And
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'll have to send you, I have an awesome picture of her car. But I think just to me, that means just happy to be present. And the key part of that is be present. And I think I can tend to get really ahead of myself or really behind myself and looking back at moments of like, if only I had done this way, maybe this would be different. Or if only, if I'm not doing this like this in 3 years, it's not all the things. And I think just happy to be doing something that makes me happy and present and aware of what I'm doing and not focusing on like what I should be doing, or I don't know, just all the expectations. So yeah, I would say that's probably the best advice and what I try and follow the most.
Oh, glad to be. Nice. Hey, what's coming up next for you? And I guess the question partly, or maybe even mostly, is, all right, tell us about this project that you're working on, and
yeah,
where is it, and when can we see it?
Where is
experiencing it? Where is it? I don't know. No pressure. Pressure.
Yeah. So I think basically I kind of got to a point after I put out my last EP, which was in 2022. I was so burned out. I had spent a lot of time in writing rooms and in studios just doing what I thought other people wanted to hear, whether that was someone in an office that could sign me to a record deal tomorrow, or it was fill in the blank, all the people. And I really got to a point where I was like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore. This is really hard. This is emotional. Like, I'm flat out burnout. But there was this little voice in the back of my head that was like, oh, but like one day when I'm older and I've had some success as a songwriter and I've got a little bit more like money in my bank account, like I'll make my dream, like Laurel Canyon, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks, like that kind of record that I've always wanted to make, but that I can't make until I've like proved myself more. And I just had more and more conversations with Kevin, who, I mean, we like, aside from like our personal relationship, like we've made music together for 10 years.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Which is crazy. But he kind of just encouraged me, alongside one of my best friends, Abby Miller. She's been helping me on the management side. They both quietly encouraged me of like, we can go in the back room in the apartment and just make a record like whenever, and no one has to hear it. Like, let's just make it to make it and put no pressure on it other than just like creating something because we feel the need to create, because we love it. And so at the beginning of this year, January, we started just chipping away at songs. And I think once that permission was granted to me to make a record that no one on Music Row in the very, very commercial country industry had to hear or had to like, I could write whatever I wanted and we could put whatever instruments we wanted on it. And there were just no rules. And so it became this like really fun process of like, okay, well, here's this song that I wrote 3 years ago that I've always really liked, but no one at on my team at the time thought was cool. But we think it's cool. Let's finish it. Let's record it. So it's been a really playful experience of just like building this or like shaping this sculpture, I don't even know, of songs.
Sure.
Yeah, so we're finally at a point. The first song, Happy Trails, comes out September 20th. And we're starting to get to the part where people do get to have an input, which is a whole new thing that I'm learning to I don't know, I'm just kind of going through what that means versus like truly this 10 by 10 foot room has been a safe space of like anyone can say anything or play anything and it's not stupid. And like that's a really safe place to create. And now to step outside of the room and open up the suggestion box is scary but exciting at the same time because I'm really proud of what we've done. So that's where we're at and working on the second half of the record now.
That sounds brilliant. Love the approach. I love the context from which you started the project. I think that's a really, really great place to do anything creative or really anything from a performance perspective.
Yeah.
Imagine if we thought, what could we do if we just weren't bothered by who cared about it? Doesn't mean we're not trying to serve in ways that are important, but yeah, I love that sentiment.
Thanks. Yeah, it's been fun. This has been such a learning year creatively. I think that there is power in that and that it's important to serve that part of us too. I think that just wants to create without it having to turn into anything other than whatever it wants to become. Yeah, it's not always the case.
No, that's brilliant. Love it. Can't wait to hear it. And I will say, because I've had a little sneak peek preview, so the Happy Trails lyrics come on.
Thanks. Thank you.
So, I mean, the melody is amazing. I just think that's fantastic. But Happy Trails You. Oh my goodness.
I'm excited for that one. 30 something days.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Anna, thank you so much for spending some time. I thought this would be a really cool conversation. And of course I wasn't disappointed. You may have been. I don't know, but no, it was really
incredibly.
This was really incredibly disappointed. But that's all right. I'm just doing this for its own sake. So
I'm indifferent.
You don't have to love it, Anna.
Wow. That's work in action right there.
There you go. No, thank you so much. Looking forward to hearing your new music, seeing you on stage, and catching up again soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. All right. Talk soon. All right. Thanks for joining the podcast today. Awesome discussion with Anna Vaus. One thing I'll say about Anna, she is serious about fun, super smart, super talented. If Anna Vaus were a stock on the New York Stock Exchange, I would be saying buy because that stock's going up. Can't wait to hear her new music when it comes out in the next few weeks. So once again, I'm Paul Monahan, and my mission is to help you lead, play, and perform at your best. If you want to learn more about the work that I do, I'm at paulmonahan.com. You can find my book there, The Most Important Game. It's available in hardcover, paperback, ebook, and Audible as well. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and definitely want to subscribe. And if you're listening on the podcast, please hit the follow button so you don't miss any of our upcoming episodes. Special shout out to Kevin Monahan, also behind the scenes today, as he has been for all of our episodes so far. And next time, or until next time, remember, don't give up. Stay in the game, no matter where you're performing, no matter the domain. It is possible for you to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more. See you soon.